Today's Prescription for Health. I am your host, Dr. Malea Jensen, and this is my co-host, Tucker. Tucker is co-hosting from heaven, and we're going to try to avoid some of the glare, so I moved him off to the side, but he's still helping me out. For those of you who do not know me, I am Dr. Malea Jensen. I'm a family practice physician. I'm located in Iowa, and I'm really glad that you guys are here. I do this every Saturday and Sunday, Saturday at 9 a.m. Central, Sunday at 10 a.m. Central. And I just want to thank you all for being here with me today. When you're here with me, it indicates to me that you are wanting to take or make an investment in your health, and that means a lot. So welcome and thanks for being here. Good morning, Lucy. Thank you for being here. Lucy is my Blue Shield, my moderator over on YouTube, and we all appreciate her. Today, I just thought we would briefly talk about a subject, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on it. And we're going to talk about a little bit about daylight savings times. How is it affecting you guys today? Or is it affecting you at all? Okay. You know, most of you have already turned your clocks back, or excuse me, clocks forward. It's spring forward, fall back. Essentially, daylight saving time essentially moves an hour of light from the morning to the night. So it allows maybe for more leisure time, more time for you and the family after work or school to be together. It was actually implemented it was in Germany in 1916, and the US, the United States, did not adopt the change until 1918. So we were on what we call standard time. And then on March 31st, 1918, we sprung forward. We moved our clocks ahead of time for the first time ever in history, March 31st, 1918. And then we created, we had basically had a fall back, I believe it was on November 1st of 1918. So that's when daylight savings time took effect for the United States. Now, what do you think is impact for us with daylight saving time? Can you think of anything? Maybe it doesn't affect you guys, but if you were to look into it, you know, the fact that when you move the clock forward 1 hour, your internal biologic clock does not move with it, okay? It doesn't immediately adjust, and that's why you might be feeling odd on today or even tomorrow. Now, from a health standpoint, if you were to ask my opinion on it, I could tell you from a health standpoint that heart attacks are much more common. Julia, it says it's 3 p.m. where she's at. It is 10 a.m. here, so you must be somewhere in, if it's 3 a.m., oh gosh, I don't even know. Where are you guys listening from? What city, what state, what country? So Kid RN says it messes with her circadian rhythm. She's out of sorts for several days. How is it affecting you guys? Put it in the comments. I'd love to hear. Sokol is listening from Virginia. So with that, you know, since our body internally, the biologic clock, our circadian rhythm does not adjust immediately, we are at significant risk for heart attacks. Imagine that. 24% increased risk of heart attack the day after we move our clocks. Forward, not back. This is just data on moving it forward. Stroke increased risk is 8%. ER visits are up. And also, believe it or not, there's a 30% increased risk of car accidents the day after we change. So that would be, we changed it today, so that would put it at tomorrow on Monday. So that's kind of an odd thing. I'm guessing because, and I'm just guessing here, I did not even read up on this, Why would car accidents increase? Is it because the sun is in our eyes? Is it because it's, let me see. Let me think through this. If it's still dark outside, we have more melatonin in our body, okay? And we have less cortisol. So we have less, we have less cortisol available to wake us up because it's still dark and our body's not regularly wanting to get up when it's dark. So melatonin is still on board, cortisol is low. Then, because we have to go to work, our alarm clock goes off, we start to raise cortisol, and perhaps that makes us edgy and anxious and everything else. And sure enough, we can have risk of, what's you guys' thoughts on the risk of, the accidents? I'm just trying to think through it logically. If we were, so many of you have probably heard that British Columbia is no longer going to move their clocks after today at 2 a.m. Okay? But they left it on the spring forward time. How do you guys feel? Do you like it? Springing forward, and in the summertime, you're going to have a longer sunlight day. So you're going to have more sunlight till, I'm in Iowa, so we're going to have sunlight till 9 p.m. If we were on standard time, we would have light until 8 p.m. By moving it forward, well, there's really only two options, okay? British Columbia chose keeping at, they're going to end daylight. They're going to end moving the clocks. They're going to end moving the clocks. So they're going to end on daylight saving time. Okay, so in the winter months, it will not get light until 8 or 9 a.m. in some places. I'm not sure if I can imagine not having light until 9 a.m. I would be at work for, maybe 2 hours. And yeah, I don't know, it just would seem weird. So what British Columbia has decided is they're actually going to have a permanent daylight saving where, I don't know. And I kind of looked up what Iowa was thinking about, and they are also more in line with ending, if we're going to end it, in daylight saving. We actually tried it in Iowa in 1974, and it failed. It failed in less than a year, and we shifted back to the dual, okay? Lucy says she doesn't like the daylight saving because it's not how God intended. If we were to go back in time, go back to 1918, that would have aligned with God's timing. Everything was centered around God at that, during that time, our internal clocks were God-given. In 1918, man decided to change the clocks. And you ask yourself, why? And many times back during World War I, so back during 1916 in Germany and 1918 in United States, it was the main reason for daylight saving was actually to conserve fuel. And so it could be used for the wartime, okay? Yet, if you were to look it up and say, why would we want daylight saving time now? The answer is money. It allows businesses to stay open longer. It allows, you'll say, yeah, but I like my leisure time. I guess I understand. Kid RN says, I'm in Missouri. I wish they would leave on one or the other. I prefer to do away with the daylight saving. Well, you wouldn't be, if you choose one or the other, one choice would be daylight saving. I think I understand what you're saying is maybe moving the clocks back and forth. And according to our health, Kid RN, Moving the clocks back and forth is actually the worst thing that we can do from a biologic clock shock. By moving it back and forth twice a year, you are increasing our risk of high cortisol, high adrenaline, high inflammation, high blood clotting, high heart arrhythmias. Your organs get confused. So like Lucy says, she wants it the way God intended for our normal biologic circadian rhythm, our biologic clock, okay? But if you were to keep it on daylight savings time, would our body adjust? I think over time it would. Is it on God's timing? No. But the back and forth is even worse for us, I believe, okay? Now, states, so Lucy, I'm pretty sure you already know this, but states that are wanting a permanent standard time, so that would be God's time. That would be, let's go back to 1918, and we're going to permanently put it on standard time. So you won't pop forward every March, okay? You're not going to spring forward. You're going to leave it on standard time. The states that are wanting this is California, Indiana, New Jersey, New York, Washington State, Kentucky, Missouri, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Oklahoma, and Vermont. Those states have pending filings in the House and the Senate to try to remain on standard time. Like I said, Iowa in the works wants to remain on daylight saving time. And I had to actually look this up. Back in 1966, there was an act, so it was a Uniform Time Act of 1966 that allowed a state to opt out of daylight saving time. Okay? Yeah, Lucy, that is surprising. California is one of the highest, that was actually ranked number 1 for wanting to shift it to daylight savings, to keep it at permanent standard time. Okay? There's 12 of them and probably more. But this 1966 act made it so it allowed states to opt out of springing forward. So back in 1966, there was a Uniform Time Act that said states could, it would allow states to opt out of springing forward, daylight savings. The 2 states that chose this is Hawaii and Arizona. But if you are on, so like Iowa, I can only speak for Iowa, and according to this Uniform Act of 1966, in the law, there is no way to allow states to opt out of daylight savings time. So a state like California cannot opt out of daylight savings time without going through legislation. Okay, but you could opt out of did I say that right? I did. You can, so I believe, okay, I'm getting confused, but I believe the way I understand this, and you guys can look it up, it's called the Uniform Time Act of 1966. It allows states to opt out of jumping forward. That's where Arizona and Hawaii, but you can't do the opposite, okay? So that is good for some states that are wanting to stay on standard time, but again, who knows? I just think because I'm in the medical field, I really think that from a health perspective, not only from a God perspective, okay, but from a health perspective, I just don't think it's healthy for our circadian rhythm, for our normal biologic clock. So I'm just kind of wondering, yeah, slippery. The Arizona and Hawaii are the only 2 states that don't do it. You know what interests me is, so Nebraska is one of the states that have legislation that they want to remain on permanent standard time. Okay. Now, Iowa wants to go to daylight saving time. So Nebraska is my neighboring state. So I understand that if you're in Arizona, the neighboring states, you're going to go across the state line and you're going to change. But what if Nebraska has standard time, Iowa's got daylight saving time, and then Indiana, or not Indiana, but Minnesota chooses something else? It's just odd that we're going to have all these state line things going on and changing the time. And so some of the states have clauses that they will only change if their bordering states will also agree to the same thing. So I don't know what you guys are thinking. It's an interesting concept. And I'm Lucy, there are supplements you can take, especially magnesium, that will reset your biologic clock. So workshop, tell me about supplementing with magnesium that helps reset your biologic clock. What is it about magnesium that resets the circadian rhythm, the biologic clock? How does that work? Do we know? Yep, Dr. Gregory, I agree. It does mess up our circadian rhythm. So I'm waiting on, because I don't know what they're thinking. Workshop says simply by taking a supplement like, especially magnesium, Workshop says, that will reset your body clock. Corbett says the magnesium helps your body produce melanin. Melanin or melatonin? Which is it? I'm only asking because I don't know, okay? You guys we're on this journey together, so we want to talk about this. Does anybody know? Somebody can look it up real quick. Does magnesium help change our circadian or our biologic clock? And how does it do that? Melanin, it makes your skin darker. Okay? How does magnesium change your melanin? And how does the melanin affect our biologic clock? Okay? Nobody has any answers for me. Okay, we'll table it because I don't know, you guys. But I'm not understanding the correlation. Okay? Any questions? YouTube, so if you have questions, let me know. I just want to thank you guys for being here. I said that at the very beginning. And I just want to acknowledge you and, the fact that you want to take or invest in your health, and that's why you're here on a Sunday morning after daylight saving time. It is 10:19 here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Chrissy asks, how long does it take to bring down AST, ALT at 200? Chrissy, what is causing your ALT? Is it your ALT at 200 or your AST at 200, or is it both? I'm interested. What is causing it? Do you have some sort of hepatitis? Do you have fatty liver? What is your diagnosis? Or do you have cirrhosis, fibrosis? Okay. Luann, we do not do live videos with the listeners unless I have it scheduled. So, but thank you. I appreciate that. Lucy says magnesium helps the body regulate melatonin, the hormone that signals the brain it's time to sleep. Okay. So Lucy looked it up. So it's not melanin, it is melatonin. Okay. If taking magnesium helps the body regulate our melatonin. How is that changed when there's daylight savings? So by thinking through it, you guys, with daylight savings, we are going to wake up and it's still going to be dark because that hour is taken and moved it to the nighttime. So we're going to actually have more melatonin on board early in the morning when you wake up. Okay? So by taking magnesium, it's saying, well, I'm going to regulate my melatonin. But if it's still light outside, if it is still light outside and you don't have darkening shades, you're not going to release melatonin. It's impossible. It has to be dark outside. Even if your TV was going, the light from your TV or from your phone or what other blue light, a night light, any light will decrease the trigger to make melatonin or secrete melatonin. So no, I can't see that any magnesium is going to help trigger or regulate melatonin when melatonin isn't going to be secreted until dark time, until it's pitch black. So magnesium is calming. Magnesium will stimulate the GABA side of things, parasympathetic side of things. So it's going to calm us, but it's possible it regulates melatonin, but again, I can't see that melatonin is going to change if it's still light outside. Okay? If I'm wrong, you guys let's talk it through. If it's still dark outside when you wake up, melatonin is still going to be on board. Okay? And we're supposed to have cortisol on board when we wake up in the morning. Cortisol is trying to get us ready for the day. If you got melatonin still on board, especially if you're driving early in the morning to work and it's still black, you got melatonin on board, which is relaxing you. Now I'm understanding why accidents could be occurring. You're not awake. You're not awake. Unless you're going to work at 9 and the sun is in your eyes and you cross the center line. Thank you, Lucy. Lucy says magnesium doesn't set the clock, light does, but it helps the body transition into the nighttime sleep phase more easily. Okay. Lucy says, my goal is to find all natural things I can do to support my system before going to a supplement. So what can we do naturally? And I think this goes no matter if daylight saving time is on board or not. To prepare ourselves or unwind, to prepare ourselves for sleep, I believe 2 hours before going to bed, we need to get rid of all light, okay? Unless it's a red light. If you have red light in your house, then I could see where, that would be tolerable in order to go to sleep. The red light would help, okay? So getting rid of the TV, our phones, computers, any blue light, we got to get rid of blue light. So your blue light that's even in your house, in your light bulbs, in your, you can see it in my glasses, my ring light, that is all. And honestly, I have been known to be using my ring light at night. If I'm recording videos or reels, I'll be using my, if I have to do it at nighttime to get it done, then I'm being stimulated through my eyes with the blue light. And that's not good. Eating right before bed is not good for many, many people. I mean, some people say, oh, I can eat right before I go to bed and sleep like a baby. But our body temperature changes before we go to, when we eat and then go to sleep. We want our body temperature to be low. We want cool as can be, tolerable, in order to go into deep sleep. If you've eaten, especially carbs, before you go to bed, it's going to raise your blood sugar. Blood sugar will raise insulin, and insulin causes anxiety. Insulin causes increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, sweating. That's sympathetic tone. We want parasympathetic tone before we go to bed, like GABA. Taking GABA or stimulating GABA. Yeah, I agree. Diet and exercise. So I am not one that would want to exercise before I go to bed because exercise naturally raises cortisol. It's a stress. Driving at night releases cortisol and is stress. So if I got the natural progression of cortisol, it starts to be secreted around 4 a.m. and it goes up until about 9 a.m. So it's going up about 9 a.m. and then it kind of levels off. Now, if you were to get in a road rage, you're going to get spikes, but it's going to come back down. Okay? Even eating is going to spike it and it's going to come back down. So just naturally, our body's going to raise from about 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., level off, and then around 6 p.m., it's going to start coming down again. If we exercise after work, we are extending, in fact, we're spiking cortisol for 1 or 2 hours. Now, if you tell me, but I'm staying up till midnight, I would say, are you doing that every night? Oh, no, just 3 days a week. Again, I'm going to step in and say, one of the natural ways of improving our biologic clock is consistent bedtimes and consistent rise times. So for those of you who are all over the board and you're, doing stuff at night and then you're not doing stuff at night, you're staying up till midnight, then 11, then 10, then, back up to midnight, that, I don't know which one is worse, the changing of the clocks or you doing it every single night to yourself. All right. Lucy says, pretty much do the same thing, continue doing the same things I always do. I thought there was something we could do to help our systems even more during the time changes. I would definitely use darkening shades or putting up a comforter over your window to completely black things out. Making it very cool because, I don't know what it's like in your region, but, in the summertime, it gets really hot here. And we should probably keep our temperature in the home around 63, 64, 65. And many people don't like that, but it's the best temperature to sleep. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Happy Sunday, Kashua. Thank you. LC says, I agree. What are you agreeing with, LC? Agreeing with the temperature in the room? Agreeing with no blue lights in your house at all? I don't know what you're going to do about your TV. And a lot of people watch TV right before bedtime. Maybe we should start reading books before bed and start learning something. What do you guys think? Education. What is the teaching? We talked about daylight savings time today. But what do you guys think? This is really going to stir you guys up. What do you guys think about your brain shrinking over time? I'm fascinated by the shrinking brain. And no, I'm not a neuroscientist. I just, what's my favorite book? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 12 books sitting in front of me right now that I have read. I guess I'm 3/4 through the 12th book. And those are what I've concentrated on in the last, let's say 4 months. So 12 books in 4 months, that's 3 books a month. It's pretty good. Do I have a favorite book? I don't think so. So many books have really enlightened me. I love to read books that educate me. The one book that I read this year, it's not in this pile, that had nothing to do with health or teaching me something about the brain or about how our personalities are, or just cholesterol, diabetes, insulin resistance. Those are the things I really enjoy reading. But I had a friend who said, listen, I know that you love to read and to learn and to do all these things, but I think you need to I think you need to read something that's just maybe nonfiction, or I don't know what the words are, because I don't read any other books except for books that educate me. Okay? So I read a book called A Man Called Ove. Have any of you guys read the book, A Man Called Ove? And the author, now I'm having a blank, writes a series of books. He's a wonderful storyteller, okay? And A Man Called Ove was, honestly, you guys, I couldn't even finish. I did finish it. And it was so, I don't even know if I should tell you this, because I want you to read the book. If you're interested in, reading books and you want to read by this author, it can either put you in a mood or not put you in a mood. Linda says her favorite book was Thornbirds. I can't even tell you if I've had a favorite book before. I've read political books and educational medical books, and even in this pile, I couldn't even tell you what books. Have you guys read Atomic Habits? Have you guys read Boundaries? Have you read Psycho-Cybernetics? These are the books that I have read recently. There's a book by Mel Robbins called Let Them. They're just great books that help educate you, help you to learn things. But then there's books like A Man Called Ove, and you go, Tuesdays with Maury. I've actually read that book. I have read that book. Existentialism and the Art Therapy Inspired Me. While you're talking about that one, there is, oh my gosh, it's a series too, and I think it's a series of 3. Oh my gosh. I just got it. So have you guys read, and tell me you probably read this in high school, I don't know. It's called The Celestine Prophecy. The Celestine Prophecy. And I believe the follow-up book was called The 11th Sign or The 10th Sign or something like that. Have you guys read that book? Those books? Now, is the Celestine Prophecy have anything to do with biblical prophecy? No. But there are so many things that I got out of it as far as how the human thinks. Okay? And what I mean by that, let's just go into that, because this might go along with the shrinking brain that I wanted to talk about, but I don't necessarily have to. When we as a human being journey in our life, we are described in this book as either circles or C's. When we are described as a circle in the book, and this is what I remember from it, you guys, it's been a while, but I won't forget this analogy. When we are described as a circle, we are very complete in ourselves. We can consider ourselves independent. Independent thinking, independent. You could go live on your own, independent. You have all of your beliefs, everything is, you feel complete within yourself. A circle. A C is somebody who's obviously incomplete. The C person is incomplete. Now, if you can imagine, if a C meets a circle, if a C meets a circle, the C is going to use the circle to complete them. Okay? So this person hasn't developed their own way of living on their own. It's hard. How do I explain it? I'm having trouble word finding right now. But this C person will steal energy from the circle. The complete person will actually be giving energy to the C for the C to try to make themselves complete. They never can, because there's not enough what the circle can give them. The C will never be complete until they complete themselves. So this C person is continuously stealing energy from people around them to complete themselves. What if two C's meet each other? If two C's come together, the energy is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Neither one of them will ever complete themselves. This is something like external validation. So a C person is somebody who needs external validation to know that they are a good person, or to know that they are a person in general, that they can do something. So if this C person is, maybe they haven't even gotten out of 8 years old, they could be emotionally immature, have a lot of problems, okay? The C is just somebody who hasn't quite gotten through the developmental stages to where they're now an adult, okay? They're stuck in time, I think. And so reading the Celestine prophecy honestly, that's what I got out of it. It was quite, it was very intriguing. Speaking of books, Kid RN says the brain and the gut fascinate her. I just started reading Dr. Jason Fung's new book called The Hunger Code. I probably should get it. Have I read any of his books? I believe I've read one of his books. I can't remember if it's the Obesity Code. I can't remember, but that does sound like a good book. So you're fascinated by it. Are you into it that you could tell us that it's worth us purchasing? Okay. Addie's here. Addie's here. Hello, doctor. Hope you're doing well. I am, thank you. I watched your stream yesterday, and you gave us a very valuable information for free. Thank you very much for opening our eyes. Addie, you are very welcome, and thank you for acknowledging me, and I'm glad to help. That's what that is what my ambition is. That's what my passion is, to help you guys, okay? And I feel that God will bless me in the process, okay? I'm doing this for the glory of God, and in the process, it's helping you. Oh, Casey, I have like 10 colors of this one style of glasses that I bought on Amazon. The reason I wear them is because I like to be able to read you guys' comments. And so they are my reading glasses. I can see it, but I probably slur the words. Linda says she was joking about the thornbirds, but yes, Celestine prophecy was a good one. All right, so one person has read it. Mark says, I'm currently reading a series of sermons by Smith Wigglesworth. Never heard of Smith Wigglesworth. You know what series, Mark, that I like from a biblical perspective? I don't know if you guys have ever read any books by David Limbaugh. David Limbaugh is actually Rush Limbaugh's brother. David Limbaugh wrote, an example is The Road to Emmaus. David Limbaugh, if you are trying to study the Bible, sometimes it's really good to read a book and have the Bible open at the same time. This is what I do, okay? I'm just trying to give you, ways that I study. So if I'm reading the Bible, and let's just say we're in Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, probably John, because it's one of the fastest or easiest to read Gospels, okay? I will likely pick up a book written by an author that I'm familiar with that will help me to correlate to the Bible. So I will read something and then I'll go, because authors like David Limbaugh will describe what's going on at the time. So I will, for instance, read in Luke 4, and I'll be reading the book with David Limbaugh, and then he'll be talking about Luke 4. And then I go into Luke 4 and write notes because it helps me. Jesus answered, it is written, man does not live on bread alone. The devil led him up to the high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he said to him, I will give you all their authority. All. This is the devil speaking to Jesus. Okay? So one of my notations from reading in books is, and Satan has no authority to give Jesus never gave the devil any authority. God never gave Satan any authority. So for Satan to say, I'll give you all of this, everything, anywhere you look, I'll just give it to you. Satan has no authority over that. So it doesn't really so much say that in here, but it helps me realize that, wow, Jesus was being bamboozled. Satan was trying to bamboozle Jesus, but Jesus didn't fall for it. Jesus doesn't get bamboozled by the buffoonery. But humans aren't quite that intelligent yet. And for instance, our brains are shrinking, especially by the things that we eat. Let's see here. The unnamed person. Any book recommendation for consistency? I guess I would read Atomic Habits. Penny is reading Mel Robbins, Let Them. It was good. It's stuff that you already know. For the most part, it's stuff you already know. And I like the book, but I like meat. I like stuff that's going to really, where I can go, oh yeah, that was it. And that really hit, or I could relate. Yes, I could relate to Let Them theory and all of her anecdotes. And, Mel Robbins, I'm guessing is the empath type, the easily manipulated type of person in the day, maybe not now, because she's learning to basically develop boundaries, and she's teaching people how to develop boundaries. Okay. And so if you want to read the book Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend, that might help you connect those two books. Cloud and Townsend give more ways to do it. And honestly, some of the ways, they seem so obvious. If you want to stop eating carbohydrates, for example, they say don't put them in sight. Well, duh. If the cookie is out and you walk by it, your chances of picking up the cookie and eating it are much higher if it's sitting out than if it's put away. And I would go so far as to say, don't put it in your house at all if you want to overcome your addictions to carbohydrates. So that could be one of the things that's in Atomic Habits. Now, I read this book in a, a study group. So a book club. I read it with a book club. And you hear other people, and they have a lot of, there's people that have a lot of problems, okay? And a book like Atomic Habits is really going to hit home with them, okay? With me, that it just seems so obvious that you shouldn't even have to be told. But yet that is not a lot of people. My brain works different than some people, and it's hard for me to understand that. But there was things in that book where it helped me with even talking to people and in talking to people and having a habit of how you're going to do things. And one of the easiest things that I think that you could do is actually going back to the daylight saving time is having a set time. So your clock, we're going to say no matter what time schedule we're on, you need to go to bed at the same time and get up at the exact same time. No messing around. That is an atomic habit for me. Go to bed at 9, get up at 4. Whatever your time thing is, you have to keep consistency. So who was it that asked that question? Read Atomic Habits. It might just click with you, okay? Let's see. Okay, Linda's got to go. So we still got Lucy here. 9 Paris says, why did you, me, always start a religious topic to get validation from the public? I don't understand your question, 9 Para. Why did you, me, always start? That means always, like every single time, a religious topic. A religious topic. I believe it was a question that came up, but I'm not sure. And get validation, 9 Para, what validation am I getting from the public? I always start a religious topic. Help me out here. What is your question? Because what I'm hearing you say is I'm reading into this, of course, like you're reading into whatever you've said, but I'm reading into it that you don't want me to talk about a religious topic when it comes up. That I always start it, so I start it. Sounds like that's what I'm hearing, that you don't want to be here. So in that case, 9 Para, maybe you exit. It's not something that you want to listen to, because I'm not ashamed to talk about the gospel. Jesus died on a cross. He was buried, and 3 days later, he rose from the grave. He is the only man in the world, in history of all times, that has ever conquered death and rose from the grave. So I'm not ashamed to talk about the gospel. So 9 Para might want to go find a different live stream to listen to on a Sunday. All right. So 9 Para is now using a logical fallacy toward me, using an argument. And this is very interesting for those that's reading on Let Them by Mel Robbins, is now Para is saying that I'm actually not normal. So what is that? That is gaslighting. And that is a projection on 9 Para by telling me. So if you guys know what I'm really talking about, 9 Para is not going to know what I'm talking about, because in their world, they are always right. Okay? And in everybody else's world who thinks logically, who doesn't use deflection and projection and gaslighting and blame shifting and all of those other things. I'm getting a lot of comments over here on Instagram. Thank you for verifying. So all of those things that are being used by Para in just these 2 comments gets you to think about what type of person you're dealing with. And so we'll let Para just kind of sit around and absorb all of that, and we'll go on to the next question. Mark says, I have problems sleeping, not because I don't want to sleep. What problems do you have? Do you have something called insomnia? Do you have early insomnia, trouble getting to sleep? Middle insomnia, trouble or waking up in the middle of the night? Or late insomnia, where you wake up too early? So you want to sleep until 6, but you wake up at 4. What is your trouble or problem with sleeping? And what have you tried? Oh, thank you, Lucy. I appreciate you. Olin, thank you. I appreciate you as well. Thanks for being here. Penny says, what about this shrinking brain thing? I think I might have a problem. Well, let me just ask you, or you think to yourself, what about your waistline? If you look at your waistline, so what I'm talking about is metabolic syndrome, and a high waist size is basically a marker for metabolic syndrome. So when you measure your waist with a measuring tape, with a Taylor tape, your waist size should be less than half of what your height. So say you're 60 inches tall, your waist should be under 30, way under 30 to be honest. But if it's 30 or above, you now have what they consider a metabolic belly, okay? And we usually call that, we refer to that as a beer belly, but it's more than that. It's a hepatomegaly belly, so it's a fatty liver belly. It's a shrinking brain belly. Visceral fat is not just a storage site, okay? It's basically a waste dump. And these fat cells are they're growing, and then they're going to grow so big that they're going to start leaking. And so they become an active chemical factory for you, okay? And I have talked about in the past a hormone called PAI inhibitor 1, plasminogen activator inhibitor 1, which increases our risk of having blood clots stay around longer. But visceral fat also releases something called IL-1 beta. IL-1 beta. And it is a pro-inflammatory marker that basically is stoking the brain. It's inflammatory, and it's targeting this particular interleukin 1 beta targets the hippocampus. And if you know anything about the brain, the hippocampus' main job is with our memory. There's also been studies showing that when we have high IL beta 1, the brain is shrinking in time. I have also seen studies, and I need to really look into this more, but a vegan has more of a shrinking brain than a carnivore. And I guess there's books out on that as well. And there's studies in the process that are looking with MRI of the brain or CT scans, and they're looking at the brain about, it's atrophying. But that person going back with the big belly size, you're not only increasing your risk of developing clots or keeping clots, which can lead to heart attacks or strokes, but it also is an inflammatory signal for the brain, especially the hippocampus, to cause shrinking of the hippocampus, which is cognitive decline, which is our memory, which is kind of scary, you guys. All right? So that's where I kind of wanted to go with that, with the brain shrinking. Kid RN says the hunger code is definitely worth a read. It goes in depth about the hormones and peptides that regulate hunger. Okay, so ghrelin and leptin and GLP. So all of those hormones are probably talked about in this book, and how they interchange and cause our hunger or lack thereof. Sounds like a good read. Sounds complicated. Yes, Kid RN, I believe waist measurement is better than a BMI, because you could be a very muscular person, and for height, you could be 6 foot and be 220, and that will put you obese when you look at you're basically got a six pack and you're 3% body fat. So yeah, BMI is distorted when it comes to especially if you have a lot of muscle, because muscle is going to weigh more. Where it is almost all too accurate is when you have an obese person. The BMI is very accurate, and it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio of how much body fat is actually on the person. So if you have an obese person come in, their BMI is 31, and if you were to do underwater testing or a bod pod on them, I bet their body fat percentage will likely be about 31%. The normal, I believe, I'm not saying what we are now, I'm not saying what the average is now, but a male at 15 and a female at 20, no more than that. Julia says, hey doc, do you think it's okay to have a cheat day now and then when doing keto carnivore? I still struggle with sugar craving, nowhere near what I was used to, but nonetheless, I still miss things. Julia, Do I think it's okay for you? I can't answer that. Do I think it's okay for me? I can answer that. I can answer whether or not I want to go out to eat and have a steak and a baked potato. Is it okay for me 3 times a year to have a steak and a baked potato and a salad? That is up to me. And yes, I have been known to go out a couple times a year and get a steak and a baked potato and have a salad. Now, my body does not like it the next day. My gut is screaming, but it's something that I choose to do. And so, Julie, you have to choose to do it. If I knew that I have sugar cravings, if I knew that I have a problem with addiction to carbohydrates, I probably would not go there, because I don't want the chance to fall off the wagon. I know how hard it would have been to get back on the wagon, and I don't want to have a setback like that. There are people, it'd be the same for an alcoholic or a smoker. You could give them one puff on a cigarette and they're gone. They've lost their control. You give an alcoholic one drink or one sip and it triggers the dopamine receptor in their brain and it's all over. Their wheels are off the bus. And maybe for Julie, you have one cheat day and the wheels are off the bus and now you can't undo the harm that you've caused. So only Julia can answer that, or whoever's listening, only you guys can answer that, okay? I don't want to answer it for you because I don't know you, all right? You have to decide, and this is how I always put it. I say, Malea, do you want some ice cream today? Oh, okay. Well, are you prepared to have the poison in your body today? And it'll be in your body for the next probably 3 years because of the polyunsaturated fatty acids, the seed oils that are inside. Yes, Malea, I am ready to poison myself. So, we have to decide for ourselves whether or not a cheat is good for us, okay? All right. Looks like Lucy is busy moderating over here. Prismos, hopefully I answered your question on the shrinking brain, but yes, aging in general has been shown to age. But here's the thing, you guys. I truly believe that you could die and your brain function be like that at a 60-year-old. There are things that we do that accelerate the aging brain. And sugar is one of them. Glucose, fructose, polyunsaturated fatty acids in the form of seed oils, smoking, weed. Somebody mentioned weed. Anything that is burned can increase over time, increase or accelerate our aging. Diesel fumes, the pollution in the air, nanoplastics or microplastics, heavy metals that are in the soil, and then they get into our food. Glyphosate, all of these things, and there's so many more. I'm just going through the obvious ones, okay? So all of these things are causing oxidation in the cells of our brain or the cells of our heart or the cells of our liver. It's causing oxidation more than we need, more reactive oxygen species than we can deal with. It's causing more. And that oxidation in the form of reactive oxygen species without enough antioxidants is aging us. And sure, we're going to age. We're going to get gray hair. We're going to get wrinkles. But we can accelerate that. We can accelerate our aging by eating glucose and fructose and polyunsaturated fats in the form of seed oils and smoking and drinking and under 5G or under LED lights, not sleeping, not standing barefoot on the ground, not getting in the sun. All of those things are aging and shrinking our brain. If you were a vegan, you're shrinking and aging your brain faster than a carnivore. It is a fact. And you can look up studies on this. They're now coming out. It's Not even a study that was done on carnivores, actually done, I believe, in a ketogenic lifestyle. So they were in ketosis. Nothing was ever mentioned about carnivore. I think that now I want to correct myself. So it was on a ketogenic diet. Most vegans are not getting the essential fatty acids they need. They're not getting the essential amino acids they need. Now, granted, there are some really good vegans and they are doing very, very well. They are very educated. They know exactly how to make a complete protein. They know exactly what amino acids they need. They know exactly what essential fatty acids they need. They're lifting weights. They're sleeping. They're doing all the things. And they, for the most part, are surviving. And for them, they're thriving. So if you want to be a vegan, just educate yourself. If you want to be a carnivore, just educate yourself. I am not either one of them, okay? I follow a ketosis diet, a ketogenic diet, but I happen to include dairy. I have a couple ounces of heavy cream. I have a little bit of cheese. I will have a little bit of cottage cheese. So I include dairy, maybe not every day, but at least more than once a week, and that is not really a carnivore diet. Yeah, Olin, it says, oh yeah, that whole truth is subjective crowd. Oh, mercy me. Olin, it is easy, and I'm guessing that you're a Christian, that you believe in Jesus as your Savior. And as a believer in Christ, to you, there's either truth, Jesus, or not truth, not Jesus. And one of the arguments that people will say to you, especially a non-believer, is they'll say, well, your truth and my truth just don't match. What's true for you is not true for me. But what they've just said is, it's basically hypocrisy, because they just made a statement that is what's true for you is not true for me, is actually making a truth claim, okay? So they actually do believe in truth. They just don't believe in Olin's truth, that Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. There is only one truth. It's Jesus, or it's not Jesus. It's black and white. There is no in between. There's no gray area of truth. Your truth and my truth. There's no truth. It's only one truth, Jesus' truth. You either follow Jesus' truth or you don't follow Jesus' truth. And I don't know what the percentage of the United States that follow Jesus' truth, but yeah, the whole subjective crowd of truth, there really is no such thing, because they're actually giving a truth claim when they say that there's no you true, my true, whatever true. You're giving a truth claim. I don't know what what that's called by definition. Mark says, I try to go to bed at a decent hour. Is that a decent hour every single night? I don't know what a decent hour is. I would assume a decent hour would be 10 p.m., but never tired enough. It could be that, I don't know what time you're getting up. I don't know if you take daytime naps. I don't know what you eat during the day. I don't know when you exercise. I don't know how much light you're getting. There's so many parameters that you really need to take into consideration. Then when you do get to sleep, I usually wake up multiple times, not to use the bathroom, just wake up. I also have nightmares. So again, I would probably look into all the things I just mentioned as regards to diet, your exercise routine, your light routine, doing parasympathetic nerve exercises before you go to bed might help. Reading might help. A book, not your Kindle or anything like that. Good morning, 1910. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Dog says the key is triglycerides. Triglycerides under 45 equals life extension. I would agree. I just try to get people under 70. So you're really tightly controlled dog. I like that. So yeah, if you have a triglyceride level under 70 with an HDL of 70 or above, you're metabolically very well off, okay? And, usually those people with very low triglycerides like that and very high HDLs are eating a lot of saturated fat from animals. Their LDL will likely be elevated. And when you look at studies for the general population, a higher LDL will increase life expectancy. So the higher your LDL, the higher your life expectancy. Now, there are caveats to that, and I've actually seen them not very many times, but I have seen where triglycerides will be fairly low, maybe not 70, but less than 100, okay? HDL will be 60, 70, right in there. So you would think that that person is metabolically healthy, although their triglyceride to HDL ratio is just a little over 1. Let's just say it's under 1 or 1. Let's just say it's 70 and 70. And this person happens to get an advanced lipid test. Because you would think if their triglycerides are low, HDL is high, their LDL pattern will be large and fluffy, pattern A. But when these people, and it is found incidentally, okay, they will go ahead and get a advanced lipid test and they'll see what their particle size is. And some people, I've only seen it a few times, will have a high amount of small, dense LDLs in their bloodstream. And that is, it doesn't fit the metabolic profile. It's an oddball, it's an outlier. And a doctor needs to be very careful with this person. Even if they're a coach, a carnivore coach, and they'll say, okay, what's your triglyceride? Oh, it's 70. And what's your HDL? Oh, it's 71. Oh, great, your level's under 1. And they encourage you to keep going. Yet, your advanced lipid test will show a high amount of small, dense LDLs, which are highly involved in atherogenesis. So building up plaque in your arteries. Small, dense LDLs, they're oxidized. They are damaging the glycocalyx. Along with sugar, along with polyunsaturated fatty acids, along with nanoplastics, along with heavy metals, all of these things can damage the lining of your arteries. But these people who are carnivore or a ketovore, and they have low trigs, high HDL, and then they do a lipid panel or advanced lipid test, and they got high, small, dense LDLs, you got to make a change in these people, okay? They're eating high amounts of saturated fat for the most part. I'm guessing that's what they're eating because they're carnivore. So they're eating a lot of animal fat, eating a lot of butter and tallow and lard and bacon. Their livers cannot tolerate as much saturated fat that's coming in. Usually, all of those saturated fats that are coming in are carriers of the cholesterol, and they stay in our bloodstream, and then the HDLs, which are high in number in this case, grab them and shuttle them back to the liver where they're recycled and back out to the periphery again, into the bloodstream. It's kind of that cycle, and that's a generalized cycle, okay? I'm not going deep into it, but I'm just giving you the relationship between LDLs and HDLs. LDLs are carrying it out to the organs and the brain and all the things, and the HDL grabs all the remnant and bring it back to the liver, it gets recycled. But what if there's so much saturated fat in the bloodstream that the liver is unable to handle all of that recycling? So it's gonna shut its doors. Now the LDL stays in the system longer, and it has a chance to get oxidized. And now you have oxidized small dense LDLs, which are eaten up by the foam or the macrophages, and then those cause foam cells. Now, this scenario is not likely. It's very rare, but you just don't want to miss them. If you guys are listening right now and you're carnivore coaches, please if your clients have a high LDL, please have them get an advanced lipid test. Don't miss this, okay? Desiree says, how do you increase HDL? Mine has been 60 for years. Exercise and saturated fat. Speaking of which, on that person with the high, small, dense LDLs, does that person have to go off carnivore? Absolutely not. But that person is likely eating all saturated fat. But what if you lowered their saturated fat and maybe add in some monounsaturated fat, like avocado? I'm not big on oils. If you say, well, what about coconut oil? Well, coconut oil by definition, maybe not, it's greater than 70% saturated. Everything that has fat has mono, poly, and saturated fats, okay? You can't find something in nature that's not gonna have all three types of fats, mono, poly, and saturated, okay? But I would avoid oils in general because of the oxidation, no matter what they are. So if you find, you carnivore coaches, if you find that you have a client who's got very, very high LDL, and then you have them do the advanced lipid testing, and I know you're not supposed to do this, but you know that you're getting smarter and you know that you can look at this, and they have a high amount of small, dense LDLs, you know, their doctor's not going to pick this up. So all that person has, tell them, hey, you know, I think you should lower your saturated fat. Maybe they're at 200 and they go to 100 or 125. And then they add in 25 grams of mono unsaturated. Then maybe in 3 months, recheck the small dense LDLs, the count, and numbers should go down. Okay? So Desiree, hopefully that answered your question. Thank you. So, I mean, you probably heard that alcohol will raise HDLs, but I'm not going to go there. Alcohol is a complete poison. It's toxic to our system, and I would never recommend that for anybody. Yeah, let's see. So Aurora is here, and she's catching us live. So welcome, Aurora. Which life is healthy, vegan or non-vegetarian? So a non-vegetarian could be a carnivore, a ketovore, just a ketogenic person. It could be a standard American diet. And I think anything better than a standard American diet is healthy. Okay. Now, because I don't eat plants, and there's reasons why, that I do not eat plants, I do not want plant toxins in my body. I don't want the phytosterols. I don't want the phytates and the oxalates and the tannins and the saponins and the isocyanates, and I don't want them in my body. So I particularly choose, don't eat plants. I'll eat anything that comes from an animal. Oh, I forgot to mention I eat sardines and some fish every once in a while. But yeah, sardines I probably eat 3 days a week. And I eat liver. So those are the things I probably forgot to mention. Yeah, if you guys are, thank you, Lucy. If you're wanting your questions bumped up, just make them into a super chat. It would benefit. Prismos asks, Larry asks, how do you eat your sardines? Right out of the can. Just close your eyes and eat them. Prismos asks, is there any truth to when men's brains shrink that is the chief reason they become grouchy and mean? I don't know if I could get on board with that. And you're kind of putting men all into one big giant bucket and saying that men are grouchy and mean, and it's related to their shrinking brain. Because I would venture to guess that even a shrinking woman's brain could make them grouchy and mean. Okay? So I don't want to put all of this into, when we have a shrinking brain and we're getting cognitive decline, it just doesn't think like it used to think. And so maybe your fuse is a little shorter. So you got short fuse syndrome, and that makes men and women grouchy and mean. I'd have to look into this. I'm not, usually these people are people who do not exercise. They're couch potatoes. They might just walk. One of the best ways to keep your brain functioning for as long as you possibly can is doing stuff like resistance training exercises. So lifting weights and doing high intensity interval training. That will preserve your brain more than anything, okay? And then, of course, no sugar, no fructose. I would keep plants to a minimum. Sleep, sun, barefoot on the ground. Those are the things that I would suggest. Lucy says, chronic poor sleep interferes with the brain's cleaning system. So our brain also goes through autophagy. Lucy is talking about the lymphatic system, which clears waste when we sleep. So your body, when you're sleeping, your brain is resting and cleaning itself. And if you want to look into the lymphatic system, it's, I think it would be important. I have not dug deep into that lymphatic system with the lymphatic system. I just haven't, but just think about the lymphatic system as clearing waste away. So when you don't eat, you're clearing waste, you're repairing your cells. And when you're sleeping, you're not eating. When we are not getting proper sleep or we're getting chronic poor sleep, we likely have insulin resistance. Cortisol is high. When cortisol is high, even your mTOR is high. When insulin is high, mTOR is high, guess what? AMPK is low, and so is autophagy or mitophagy. They're low. So you are decreasing your autophagy, you're decreasing your cleanup system. So yeah, your brain needs to be cleaned up too. And Lucy is mentioning that the fact that you simply don't sleep or you have chronic poor sleep, you're messing with the lymphatic system, not just your autophagy system. All right? Virginia says, Dr. J, I got a 68 on my breathing test, a 68 on her breathing test in the box and passed the 6-minute walk. Would this be good or bad for my fibrosis? Would this be good or bad for fibrosis of the liver, fibrosis of the lungs? And 68 on what breathing test? I'm having a hard time. Lara, it takes a lot of strength. Just trust me on that. They kind of taste like tuna. I think you'll be fine as long as you don't look at them. If you don't want to look at them, just eat it and you'll just get, oh, it's a can of tuna. Let's see. Yeah, Julie, I agree. It could lead, thank you, you're right. It could lead to another cheat and then another cheat and then another cheat. And then you gotta, like you said, you gotta power through it. Lucy says, why do we get gray hair? Is it copper deficiency? Any advice for this? There's partly genetics, right, Lucy? There's partly genetics. But what I tend to lean toward is the epigenetics, okay, that is going on. So we could have a gene, but are we feeding it? So the more that your body is experiencing oxidation, you are going to accelerate decreasing the amount of melanin color in your hair. The follicles are drying up. So along with the graying of hair, it's also thinning because the follicles are actually being choked out. For a female, it starts to occur right around menopause because estrogen is going down. And so testosterone is more available, and the testosterone will be converting to DHT. And DHT shrinks that hair follicle even more. So it's choking the hair follicle. What we put on, like all the products we put on our hair, that can choke out hair follicles. Men who wear hats all the time, the hair follicle can't breathe. So the hair follicle gets choked out. You can develop fungus on your head. So any type of a pathogen on your scalp. So they say that our scalp ages faster than our skin on our face, maybe even up to 10 years more faster on our scalp than our face. I don't know if that's true. I'm just telling you that's what I have read or heard in the past. Either way, let's just say that our scalp ages faster than the skin on our face. That means that the hair follicles are aging faster. They're being choked out. DHT for women and for men, especially men that are on, hormone replacement, and they're taking in testosterone. So they're on steroids or whatever they're on, okay? And that high testosterone will not only aromatize to estrogen and could lead to gyno, but it also, if you are prone to converting your testosterone to DHT, you are at high risk of going bald, because DHT shrinks up those hair follicles. Anytime you suffocate your hair follicles, and so our aging hair follicles are also losing their melanin, their color. What can you do? I would, again, avoid foods that cause oxidation or high inflammatory foods. That's a given for me. Then sleep is important. Not suffocating your hair with product or hats. I would use a shampoo that keeps your hair clean and it keeps your scalp clean. For instance, Nioxin is a good shampoo and conditioner to use 3, maybe 4 times a week to keep your hair clean. Again, allowing it to air dry, not suffocating it with product. Because Nioxin, also you're using a conditioner, I likely would not use a leave-in conditioner unless it's just on the ends of your hair. If you have long hair, just applying it to the ends. Sunlight is very important. Getting rid of alcohol and smoking, or even secondhand smoke, increases the amount of oxidation going on in our hair follicles. I guess hopefully that helps. I don't know about copper deficiency. If you have copper deficiency, you're going to have, if you have copper deficiency, the likelihood of you having iron overload is very high. If you have copper deficiency, you have low vitamin A, likely. I'd have to read up on that, Lucy. That brings up a good point. Maybe remind me and I can read up on it. But I did do a reel probably within the last 3 months on graying hair and oxidation, decreased melanin, and why. Just basic things you already know, but it's the aha moments about the hair follicles that really get us to think. Carol Ann asks, what about a pescatarian? I think any of those vegan, pescatarian, carnivore, keto diets are better than a vegetarian or a standard American diet or standard wherever you're at diet, okay? That's full of processed foods, sugars, and seed oils. So any diet that avoids processed foods, seed oils, and sugar is going to be better for you. I worry about eating a ton of fish. Even if I get wild caught fish, I worry that I'm getting exposed to a lot of heavy metals and any of the other toxins that are in the sea, which is a lot more than it used to be. So I would take that into consideration. I choose to keep my fish consumption low. Let's see. 1910 says, we are having the best weather on the West Coast. I worked on my yard for hours yesterday. That sounds awesome. I think today it's supposed to be 63 in Iowa. Mark says, what if you like sweet things? Well, I like sweet things too. So no, I don't think the sugar is good for us, period. I'm going to go out on a limb. People will say, well, we need sugar. I believe we do need sugar, but we only need about 5 or 6 grams. So our body actually makes the 5 or 6 grams that we need for all of our cells to function. Our body actually performs better on ketones. Our heart performs better. It increases stroke volume. It increases cardiac output, decreases our risk for AFib, versus our brain will actually function better on ketones than it does on sugar. Ask a seizure patient. When you switch them over to a ketogenic diet, their seizures go down. So the conduction in their brain and the electrical system of their brain is improved on a ketogenic diet. There's just so many things I believe are so positive about ketones that it just outweighs the sugar diet. It just outweighs a poison that I don't want in my body. Okay? And that, again, it's going to be up to you, Mark. If you say, I like sweet things and once a week I'm going to eat a cookie, then, and if that works for Mark and you're keeping your body fat down and Mark doesn't have a beer belly and Mark doesn't have an inner tube around his belly and Mark is sleeping good and Mark is exercising on a daily basis, he doesn't have brain fog, he's skipping down the street singing the happy song, then maybe Mark can tolerate a piece of bread, or Mark can tolerate a sugar cookie once a week. I don't know Mark. I don't know Mark's body, but anytime you take in sugar, it will spike glucose. Anytime. And you have to know that there are repercussions to spiking glucose. Glucose spikes cause glycation to occur more rapidly. Glycation is like oxidation. It's damaging cells. It's damaging cells. It's actually damaging proteins of the cells. So glycation is anytime we have a sugar on board and it binds to a protein. So we have proteins in our eyeballs and you eat sugar, you increase your risk of having changes in your eyesight. Your liver, you get fatty liver. Your skin, you get wrinkles and brown spots for that matter. And that could be with the metals as well. But glycation is not a good thing. Okay? It's occurring even on a low level because our liver's making glucose, 6 grams. So there's low level glycation going on in our body, but we as a consumer are consuming a lot more sugar than we need. I mean, sometimes at one meal, we could be consuming 200 grams. That is how many times greater than the 5 to 6 grams that we actually need to thrive. All right. Could milk homogenation be linked to small LDL particles? Sure. I think it could. I would have to read up on it. I'd have to look into it, but I think it's plausible. Jim says, what about cottage cheese and pears? Well, I would agree with the cottage cheese part, but I would not put pears in my body. Now, Jim might say, I love cottage cheese and pears. I feel great on cottage cheese and pears. I have a 6-pack. I'm skipping down the sidewalk singing the happy song. I sleep good. I don't have brain fog. I love my life. I have a great family and everything is hunky-dory. Jim, eat your cottage cheese and pears. Okay? Mark says, you're saying words I don't even understand. I feel smarter now. Mark, I try my hardest not to use big words. And if I do use a big word like glycation is just a fancy word for sugar gumming up a protein. We have proteins all over our body, everywhere, like in our skin. It's called elastin and collagen. You've probably heard of those proteins, okay? In a red blood cell, it's called hemoglobin. So that is a protein. We have proteins all over our body. And glycation is just a fancy word for sugar binding and gumming up a protein. And that protein that gets gummed up now is damaged. We don't want damaged proteins in our body. We don't want damaged cells. We don't want damaged mitochondria, which are in the cells. We're trying to keep our cells and the organelles inside of our cells as healthy as can be. We cannot live in a bubble. We cannot avoid breathing the air. We can't avoid lights. We can't avoid sometimes our drinking water that's full of chloride and bromine and all of these things in the water. If you're a pescatarian and you eat fish, you can't avoid eating whatever heavy metals and sea pathogens that you're eating. That you just have to decide how much of a bubble do you want to live in, I guess, is the answer. Sheila also worked on her yard yesterday, and she's in Georgia. I think if there was a state that I would want to live in, I could live in Georgia. I could live in Oklahoma. I don't know if there's any Oklahomans listening. Those are a couple of the states. I know I could live in probably Texas or Arizona. I don't know. Iowa's just home. Iowa is home. It's cold one day and 70 the next day. And then it rains one day and it snows the next. I mean, you just never know what you're getting in Iowa. Virginia is offering Mark trying some magnesium or melatonin. It works for many. You know, Virginia, that could possibly be, but there are some studies that show that melatonin can increase your risk of cancer. So I think we need to be careful when we're adding antioxidants to our body in excess of what our body needs. Mark says, what is the best diet? You look very healthy. Well, thank you. I usually don't get compliments like that. It's usually the opposite. I basically eat an animal-based diet. I eat animal-based. I eat ruminant red meats. I eat some sardines. I have some cream. I have a little bit of cheese. Once a week, I'll have some chicken. Maybe not even once a week. I eat liver. That I eat 2 meals a day, and I eat till I'm comfortably full. And it's usually, if I had to say, it's usually around a pound of meat a day, not at once, a pound of meat in a day, and probably 6 to 10 eggs a day. A stick of butter, a little bit of cream, maybe a couple ounces. That would be my mainstay for diet. Exercise every day, whether I want to or not. I lift weights at least 5 days a week. So I don't know what the best diet is. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. How about that? Steve says grouchiness could be related to D3 deficiency. This is where we get into the supplement or not supplement. Should we be supplementing vitamin D? And when I go down rabbit holes, I think about what if we got too much vitamin D? Then that caused too low of vitamin A, retinol. And then if vitamin A is low, then we can't have as much copper as we need. And then if copper is low, then iron is going to not be used very well, and it's going to be driven into our tissues and stored there. So I go back and forth with how much vitamin D do we need? Plus, if you don't absorb vitamin D3 very well, why is that? Could you be overweight and have fat on your body? If you have fat on your body, you could take all the D3 that you want, and it'll be stored as an inactive form in your body fat stores. So maybe, Steve, people need to be getting not only an inactive vitamin D level from your blood, but get an active vitamin D level. Check them both. And hopefully the active to inactive will be about 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 ratio of active to inactive. So a 1-to-1 to 2-to-1 ratio, at the most, okay? So you want active vitamin D, and not all stored vitamin D can become active. That's what's a kicker. So we really got to check everything, I suppose. But maybe grouchiness is related to D3 deficiency, and we need to check into this. Okay. Prodigal Select says barefoot is great, and so is fasting. Yeah, fasting, I mean, I think we all should eat a little less, maybe do 16-hour fast during the day. Life says, what if the brain shrinks due to the lymph system? I agree. If you're not getting toxins, if your lymphatic system is not working well, you're building up toxins. And yes, that leads right back to the brain. All of our organs are affected. If our lymphatics, we're going to die if our lymphatic system is not working. Mark says, is there anything better than melatonin or magnesium for sleep? Mark, you could, and I am not a supplement person, but it just say first, try, I would look up parasympathetic exercises or increasing your vagal tone. That's parasympathetic. So there's exercises like breathing through your nose. They have like breathe 4 in, hold for 4, breathe out slowly through your nose for 4 seconds, and then back again. So after you breathe out, you hold for 4 seconds, then you breathe in air through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. That's called box breathing through your nose, 4, 4, 4. So box breathing, 4, 4, triple 4, or quad 4, 4 by 4, 4 by 4 box breathing. There you go, 4 by 4. You could try that. And that helps to calm you, helps increase parasympathetic tone, helps to decrease sympathetic nervous system tone. Remember, sympathetic nervous system is glutamate triggering. Glutamate is activating. And parasympathetic tone is GABA. So I have had people who take GABA, Mark. They'll buy a GABA supplement, somewhere around, I don't know, 600 or 700, and they'll take a GABA supplement. And that helps them right before bed. It helps calm them enough where they drift off into sleep. So you're actually trying to increase your parasympathetic tone. Maybe because you have chronic stress. You're chronically in sympathetic tone. And in these days, that's very common. Okay. Moving forward says, so that's why my stomach is always bloated at night. So that's why. You must have read something. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are we all getting dementia? No, I do not think so. The people who do not eat a standard American diet, who live in the city or on the farm, they're standing barefoot on the ground, they're sleeping, that was very kind, Olin. Thank you so much. Olin just sent a super sticker to me or a super chat, and I really, really appreciate that. That means a lot, Olin. Phil Collins says, YouTube can't be good for you. Maybe some things on YouTube can't be good for you. Maybe being on YouTube nonstop can't be good for you. I will tell you that I have learned more on social media through YouTube and Instagram than I did my entire career of practicing medicine. And that is a huge statement to make, Phil. I owe a lot to the doctors and the healthcare providers that are sharing their information just like I am for free. It's like the last 4 years I have been back in medical school, and it has been amazing transformation for me. And I think a lot of people who listen to me and just people who are around me. Not being in the dark is good for me. Maybe for you or people listening say, you know what, there's just certain information I just don't want to know because it's too overwhelming. And I get that. There are times when I feel so overwhelmed with everything I'm learning that I just want to give up. I don't want to give up, but I want to just, hey, I need a pause. So I take a break. And then I'll go into something that's a little less, like I'll talk about the shrinking brain, or I'll talk about the salt shaker, or I'll talk about candles, which I think I'll talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow's real. I'll talk about candles. So you got to take a break when you're feeling overwhelmed. And so, Phil, how do I retain it all? I just keep listening and reading. Reading, again, reading is something where it's increased my intelligence factor tenfold, hundredfold. I mean, how many fold? Simply retaining it is, for me, reading it over and over and over again, listening over and over and over again. I'm developing new experiences. Before, and I'm not ashamed to say this, in my old life as a doctor, I believed what I was told about LDL and heart attacks. And if you have an LDL over a certain amount, you need to take a medicine so you reduce your risk of having a heart attack. And I had that ingrained in me. Whether you want to call it propaganda, indoctrination, ingrained, whatever you want to say, I did not look outside of the blinders. So I have these blinders on, and I was for sure on board high LDL, heart attacks. It wasn't until patients started bringing me studies, and it got me reading. And then I said, oh my gosh, could I be wrong? And there is a book, if you're, when it comes to the cholesterol, Nina T. Colts and the Big Fat Surprise. But if you wanted to really get in depth about what causes heart attacks, I would read the Clot Thickens by Malcolm Kendrick. The Clot Thickens by Malcolm Kendrick. It's a little deep. It talks about the biology and the physiology. It's a little deep. And the average listener, maybe is not ready, but it is a good book, okay? And it really put everything into perspective for me. If you're just kind of getting into it and you say, maybe if you mention that Malcolm Kendrick is a little deep, is there something that could ease me into it a little easier? I would read, one, The Big Fat Surprise, or two, what's the doctor's name? He talks about the statins. He's got a book called The Statin Lie or something. Malhotra, help me out, you guys. I think you know who I'm talking about. The Indian guy, he wrote a book about statins, The Statin Lie. That was written really simplistic that I think all of my listeners could read and understand. He gives a lot of statistics. Like if you were to take a statin for 5 years, you've never had a heart condition, you're diagnosed with cholesterol problems, LDL is high, and they put you on a statin, how many days, if you stayed on the statin for 10 years, how many extra days of life would you get if you didn't have anything else going on like a car accident? 5 days. At the most, 7 extra days. Then he talks about all of the side effects of a statin. For instance, diabetes. Increasing your calcium score, so increasing atherogenic plaque, increasing dementia, decreasing vitamin D production, decreasing sex hormone production, testosterone, and your estrogens. All of these things that I don't think other doctors are telling you. They're more on the line that say, you know what? I'm here to prevent you from getting a heart attack, so take your statin. When in reality, if I were to take a statin, I'm only going to preserve my life by 5 to 7 days, statistically speaking. Yet I will deal with 10 years possibly of symptoms like diabetes, which I do not want. Cognitive decline. You want to talk about brain shrinking, take a statin. It'll increase your risk of having brain shrinkage. If you are looking at your calcium score and you say, I want a 0 score forever, and then you take a statin and now it's 100, you know that the statin increased that. So statins increase our calcium scores. It increases plaquing, not decreases it. It does not cause plaque regression. It causes plaque growth. Now, with that being said, is the plaquing the cause of your heart attack? I don't think so. You would really have to have a narrowed artery in order to cause so much blockage of blood flow. It has to be over, I think, 75%. Narrowing in order to decrease the flow enough that you could have a heart attack. What I think is more plausible of causing heart attacks is a blood clot. And yes, statins, one of the only two things that they do is decrease inflammation, which is very important for our lining of our arteries, okay? Very important. Decreases inflammation. And it's antithrombotic. Statins are antithrombotic. So you're actually decreasing the two risk factors that are the highest for heart attacks, and it has nothing to do with LDL. That's something we need to be aware of, you guys, okay? So if your doctor is putting you on a statin for simply lowering your LDL, and you continue to eat a whole bunch of crapola food full of inflammation, processed foods, seed oils, and sugars, then I don't think being on a statin's in your best interest. I really don't, okay? So those are some of the things that I read and keep my intelligence factor up. Oh, Lucy, okay. So for your graying hair, you know what you could do. I'm seeing your question right now. For your graying hair, you could try peptides. Oh, there you go again, Dr. Jensen, with your peptides. Topical peptides. I even use topical peptides for my skin on my face, like Matrixyl 3000, for instance. But The Ordinary makes a hair peptide, along with some other things that are in it, but The Ordinary. And it's a little dropper bottle. And then, Lucy, you can buy it's a little, it's got a handle and it's got these little silicone, it's plastic silicone on your skin. Geez, here we go again. But it's got this little thing, and then it has a cap, and you can actually drop your drops into the top of the cap. And I think I can find something like that. If you want me to send you a link, I can send you a link. I think I know in my head what I want to look up on Amazon or something like that. You drop that into the little container, and basically you push down and maybe move your scalp around, and there's little prongs that eject the peptides right onto your skin. So you don't have to go with your dropper and separate your hair and drop here so it gets down to the scalp, because if it just sits on your hair, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to help you. It has to actually touch the scalp. But your scalp has to be clean. If there's things on your scalp, that has to be completely clear for the peptides to actually get through there. So that's why you exfoliate your skin. And I don't like manual exfoliation, so like rubbing your skin or using a washcloth. I like chemical exfoliation because it's much smoother. So Nioxin is a chemical exfoliant for your scalp. So that particular Nioxin, that shampoo, has salicylic acid in it, and that will exfoliate the scalp of your skin. The skin of your scalp. There you go. So then you put the peptides on at nighttime before you go to bed, and it doesn't cause any greasiness or anything like that. It looks like water, and it's the peptides. And then you could also use once or twice a week, maybe you use something by Mielle, Mielle. It is a rosemary. It's an essential amino or essential oil, rosemary, and it has some other things in it that increase hair growth. But what you're doing is you're actually helping the follicle. You're helping the follicle be opening up and breathing, and melanin could have a chance to be present. So maybe that could help with early graying. I don't know, but these are just things that you could try, okay? Let's see. Gurn has a cocktail of cannabis, melatonin, magnesium, and that equals sleep for Gurn. Let's see. There are metal detox supplements if some type. Yes, there are. There are. You could do zeolite, for instance, for metal detoxes. herbicides and insecticides that's in the soil. And so it's another reason why I'm not going to particularly be eating plants that grow in the ground. Okay. Now I will eat the animals that eat the plants, because the animals I eat are ruminary animals. They have multi-chambered stomachs, and I'm going to take my risk. So do I eat plants? Yes, as long as it's filtered through a cow, sheep, deer, lamb, bison, buffalo. Mark is from Wisconsin. Yep, I would agree. Sugar is a drug. Okay. Yep, Lucy, I agree with you. Read a book and pray. Let's see. I'm trying to find you guys' questions. I apologize. Yeah, Gern, bromine in commercial, bread, it's in our clothing. Bromine is in our clothing. Any of the other halides, bromide, fluoride, chloride, they actually have a stronger affinity for the iodine receptor than iodine itself. So when you're, bromide is just in everything. It's a flame retardant. So yes, it does. It gets into our cells and it displaces iodine. So most everybody, I'm just guessing, most everybody is low on iodine. And that's why we have seen so much thyroid problems. Lucy says, I think you would like Oklahoma. I think I would too. Drift Speed 58 says, pregnancy advice. I don't know what your particular question is, but I hope you have a safe and healthy pregnancy. Okay, Lucy's going for a walk. She's catching some sun. Sounds awesome. If I was there, Lucy, I would be walking with you. Olin says, are you a proponent of intermittent fasting? Yes, I am. I do intermittent fasting. I probably do about a 16-hour intermittent fast every single day, and I still eat 2 meals a day. So I'm definitely into going through, allowing my body to go into autophagy, getting the mTOR down, getting insulin down if it is high, getting AMP kinase up, and going into autophagy and getting some maid surface in my body going on. Clean up. It's called maid service. Okay. 1910 says, Doctor, do you have any experience with clients and lipedema? I do not. But I recall Dr. Barry, or maybe it was Dr. Chafee, interviewing a girl who had terrible lipedema. And she went on a carnivore diet and reversed it. So 1910, maybe the answer is a carnivore diet. But I would look up Dr. Barry lipedema lecture or podcast or whatever he calls. I can't remember what he calls it, but look under Dr. Barry lipedema, and when you search YouTube and watch that, it was a good one. So watch that. Edward asks, I'm a relatively new follower. I'm from Des Moines. Do you have a list of your most important health recommendations? I don't have a list. I think if you would ask, I would tell Edward that avoiding medications, avoiding supplements, eating a whole food diet, getting sleep, 8 hours at least, being consistent with bedtime and rise time, getting out in the sun, having positive interactions with people. So mind, body, and spirit. I am not for a typical doctor seeing you, making a diagnosis and giving you a pill, an antidepressant for your depression, an anti-obesity pill for your obesity, and an antihypertensive for your blood pressure. These are the things that I just no longer believe that is what is the best thing for people to live and survive and thrive in this world. It's got to be much simpler than that. But what's hard is actually getting people to give up their prosperity and abundance. We live in a prosperity and abundance. Everywhere we look, we're being deceived. We're being enticed by Satan. Satan runs this world, whether you believe it or not. And we are enticed. Our ears are tickled on a daily basis. And that's maybe where we need to have boundaries with Satan. You say, hey, you're not coming into my temple today or ever. I'm keeping you out. I don't want you here, and I don't want you tickling my ear. I'm not listening to you. You're the father of lies, and I'm not listening anymore. I was there, and you've only caused me destruction. So changing your life from in that perspective, mind, body, and spirit, is, I think, where it all lies. Okay. I think it's the sugar, 1910 says it's the sugar wreckage of my 20s, but very difficult to lose weight. Is thin and bony. So yeah, watch the Dr. Barry Lipidema live stream. True Talk says breakfast, break the fast. Maybe we shouldn't be breaking our fast first thing in the morning. I don't. I mean, if you can consider coffee breaking the fast, then I guess I do break the fast. But for the most part, I get up and I probably haven't had my first meal. In fact, I've exercised before my first meal. I've done all of my things in the morning. So from, probably don't eat until 10. Now today, it'll be noon before I get my first meal. Maybe I'll eat at noon and 5 o'clock today. So yeah, fasting is good, and no, I don't eat breakfast. I don't eat break the fast. Unless it's break the fast at noon. All right. Drift Speed says caffeine from coffee is much worse than from tea or other means. Why is that, Drift Speed? Because I'm going to get the caffeine from the coffee and not the tea, because I don't want the oxalates and the phytates in the tea. But if you want the caffeine from the tea, then go for it. And you're going to get the other things. Coffee's less in oxalates than tea. Unless, of course, you're doing herbal tea. I don't know what kind of tea you meant, so I apologize if I assumed. I was assuming maybe not herbal tea, so I apologize if... Yeah, you're right, True Talk. That is true. We do love to drink our drugs first thing in the morning. You're right. I admit it. Thanks for calling me out. Yeah, you're welcome, Olin. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. People know their doctor's first name and not their farmer's name. Most of the foods in the super duper grocery store market come from a factory farm. Oh, I'm in Iowa, and yeah, we are monocropping here, and it's destroying our earth. So Olin is doing his dumbbells in his garage and listening to me. Cool. Drift Speed, thank you. I think I'm thanking you for the compliment. Okay, trying to get through. Yeah, Drift Speed, what type of pregnancy advice do you need? I would take some methylated B complex. I'll be right there. It's almost like they know the time. Yes, the Clot Thickens by Malcolm Kendrick. You got it, Ann Julie, that's it. Yep. Yes, plastic clothing, polyester, petroleum-based. Absolutely. You guys are on it. Yes, statin-free life, Lucy. Thank you. Asim Malhotra. Thank you. That might ease you into reading that statin-free life before you read The Clot Thickens. It might just be a good progression. Maybe you read, because this is what opened my eyes, maybe you read The Big Fat Surprise first. Thanks, AJ. Maybe you read The Big Fat Surprise first. Then you read A Statin-Free Life by Malhotra. And then you read The Clot Thickens by Malcolm Kendrick. Drisby, thoughts on TRT for men, pregnancy, Adderall, peptides. Thoughts on TRT for men. I would say, why do you need it? Do you need it? Do you need TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, TRT? Do you need it? And then why? Like, what is your level? Are you having symptoms? Will TRT affect pregnancy? No, it could affect sperm, but maybe not. Adderall is speed, Adderall is meth, Adderall is a sympathetic mimicker. I'm not big on Adderall. Peptides, peptides I go back and forth, and it's probably because I don't know enough. I choose what I choose. It doesn't mean what you have to choose. I just choose, I don't want the peptides in me. I'd rather just eat steak. I'm going to eat steak and ground beef and some fish, and I'm going to get the amino acids I need through that. I choose not to take a synthetic peptide. I'll put those synthetic peptides on my face. I guess it's gonna go through my skin and into my bloodstream, but I'm not gonna spend my money on peptides. But if you go talk to Dr. Rimka, R-I-M-K-A, she's into peptides. I mean, that's her whole life is peptides. So, watch some of her stuff, learn, and see if that's good for you. Yeah, I agree, Lucy. Thank you for posting that. Universe Middle Production says, I've learned more from you than all of my doctors put together. I appreciate your honesty. You're very welcome. That's quite a compliment you gave me. You probably only have 2 doctors, but I'll take it. Thank you. Lucy says, I'm using GHKCU for the face. Please send me the link. I will. I'll send you the link. If you can remind me. Lucy, I will forget. For IBS, constipation, stomach, what's good to do, what's good to eat? A ketogenic diet. Get rid of your plants. And I bet your IBS symptoms will be gone in 7 days or less. Let's see. Yeah, Joe, God bless you as well. Thank you. Marcus says, hey, hello, doctor. I've been waking up with really bad cramps in my legs. Any advice, please? I would get your levels checked. I would get your electrolytes checked, and I would get an RBC magnesium level. Get an RBC magnesium level. If you're going to get an RBC magnesium level, you might as well get an RBC zinc level and an RBC copper level. RBC, red blood cell magnesium, red blood cell copper, red blood cell zinc. I would definitely get your electrolytes, sodium, potassium chloride, CO2. Usually, it's low magnesium, and where low magnesium is, low potassium will follow. So you might be okay on RBC magnesium, and it's a potassium problem. You have to be very careful with potassium. In fact, you have to be very careful with magnesium, okay? Get your levels checked and make sure you're checking them after you take the supplements. If you're going to take magnesium or you're going to take potassium, just make sure that you're checking your levels, okay? You don't want to have a heart attack. Oh, Julia, I don't know if I want to go there on my thoughts on chemo or radiation. I'd be happy to consult with you privately, but, telling people what to do was such everything is life-changing, but making a decision when the thought process of an oncologist is so strong, that he or she is so strong in your brain that they've seen so many people with cancer. I have my own thoughts on it. And there's a book by Julia, there is a book by Ali, A-L-I Zatari, and it's Cancer something or other. Wow, that was good. Only because he gave stories, like real life stories. And it helped me understand what's going through people's brain when they have cancer. Ali Zatari, I believe that's his name. It was a really good book. I have read so many books, you guys. It's just unbelievable. And it's hard for me to even, he goes through like cancer protocol diet. He put his mom on, and, you know, it's just, it was a good book. Okay. Yeah. Bone broth diet heals so much. It's wild. I agree. You guys, we need bone broth. Or how about this? You need glycine, and you can get that through collagen. You can just eat everything from head to toe on an animal, from nose to tail, they say. Yes, Lucy, thank you for reminding me. Please, you guys, if you're listening and you love this stuff, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, okay? That helps me get on the radar. Do I need to be on the radar? Maybe not. I mean, who knows? I'm just so happy that I can just touch a few of you, like Lucy and Drift Speed and Olin, and I'm just so happy, and John, and I just feel thankful that you guys are, if I could help one person, it would mean the world to me. And sometimes I maybe want something more for you than what you want, and I got to have boundaries, okay? Because I feel like I could want to fix everybody, and I know that's impossible. Yeah, I agree, Iva. You have to be the owner of your decisions. I agree. You have to have information to make the decisions, though. You can't go into it blind. You have to know what you're going to do, but you have to have information. You need to be provided with enough information that you can make a good decision, okay? Drift Speed, what's with tea? It grows in the ground and soaks up all of the crap that's in the soil. Yes, I do believe that coffee grows in, but it's not the leaf. It's actually the bean, the seed, the ovary of the plant. So there is a difference as far as toxins that are in it. Teas, black tea, white tea, green tea have high amounts of toxins in their leaves, and we are drinking those tea leaves. So it's up to you, you guys. If you're gonna drink a tea, I would do an herbal tea, but that's up to you. Mark, I don't know enough about Wisconsin ginseng to know if it's good for our health. I don't know. I don't know a lot about herbs and other plants. Drift, I don't know if it's time to switch up to coffee. I don't know from white tea, I know black tea is worse than white tea, and I think black and green are kind of head to head. But you have to think about it. Green tea has ECGs in it, which are really, really good for us. It's just that I choose not to put those plants in my body. I'd rather, instead of getting what benefit there is, I'm going to remove the negative. I'm going to remove the toxin, and hopefully I'll get benefits somewhere else, okay? That's my thinking. Pregnancy, 7 months pregnant, any advice is appreciated. Probably don't take a prenatal with iron in it. I would get a methylated folate and B12. I would eat, well, you're 7 months along, but if I knew that I was getting pregnant, I would be eating a carnivore diet. I would continue my exercise program. I would sleep. I would talk to my baby, and I would educate it by reading books, and I would pray, and those are the things I would do if I was pregnant or going to get pregnant. I know, can you hear him, Lucy? That is just one. That is Tootie. She was the same one yesterday, and she does not listen to me. When she gets going, I will tell you. Okay. All right, you guys, I know that here's one. Oh, Lucy. Okay, Lucy, I have a bad headache today. I thought my walk in the sun would help. Do you think this is because of the time? It's possible. And you actually, Lucy, this might be the time right now where you would take maybe 400 or 500 milligrams of magnesium right now and see if that helps. I would see if that helps, okay? And John, thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you stumbled on my channel. I appreciate it. Share it with somebody. Maybe just one person. If everybody listening right now could just share it with one person and say, hey, subscribe to this lady. I think you might like it. If you don't like it, just unsubscribe. It's not a big deal. But maybe we just slam the thumbs up right now. Okay, you guys? Lord willing, I will be back next Saturday. If you guys want a topic that you want me to talk about when I initially open up the live stream, I usually talk for the first half hour or so on a topic. Today we talked about daylight savings time. Yesterday we talked about GERD and PPIs. So you guys, if you didn't listen yet to yesterday's live stream, I thought it was a really good one. I felt good about it. Today, some days I just feel a little off, and maybe today is a little off. But yesterday I felt like I was on a roll. Maybe because today is daylight saving times. I don't know. But check out yesterday's. Click the like and the subscribe. And I got Tallow right here. You can maybe see his nose, I thought. But there he is. You can see his paws. Okay. So you guys have a blessed Sunday. And we'll be back next Saturday, Lord willing, at 9 a.m. Central Time, okay? Otherwise, during the week, catch my reels. Hit the thumbs up, the like, the subscribe. See ya.